All right, goody. And we are on. All right. So my today's idea is to just do a little Photoshop of my own photograph, of my own picture that I have taken yesterday. I actually did a couple of hours photo shoot of self-portraits, and I liked it. I think it was quite alright. I think it was quite good. I was a little bit satisfied, a little bit dissatisfied. I was trying to use a little bit new technique, and I'm going to tell you. New technique. It wasn't exactly new technique, but I was trying to recreate some sort of idea that I saw on the internet, and it just turned out that it was so much harder than it actually was. I mean, it looked as everything else on the internet. I mean, when I make my own reels, I make them look like they're a piece of cake. But unfortunately, it wasn't so. And when I work alone in my studio, then of course things are a little bit harder than they are when you're basically alone. So this is my page. This is what I post of all my stuff, and also news and exhibitions and so on and so forth. But now if we would want to go, let me just, okay. So now if we would want to go, I already chose a picture on my Insta stories. I said I don't have a picture chosen, and I didn't have a picture chosen, but I have decided to post one particular photo that I decided to edit, and I'm thinking it should be perhaps that one. Let me just show it to you which one it is. So we're gonna minimize it for now. I'm gonna open my Photoshop. I can actually see it here on the screen, and I can see it on my other screen right over here, but it's easier for me to navigate here, so I'm probably gonna most of 99.9% of the time looking the other direction. So there are a couple of things that you can already notice on the photograph. First, it is extremely blurry. Yes, and that was done on purpose. That was done in camera, let's say. I was shooting through a glass filled with water, but the glass wasn't exactly smooth. It wasn't a fish tank that was perfectly smooth. It was an old glass, square glass vase, rather thick, and there was a lot of space in between one glass and the other, so it gave me a really nice blur. So what do you see? Let me see. You see my mouse? Yeah. So what you see on the top here, the top is actual reflection from the bottom. The bottom over here is nothing more than my chair that I always place things that I need to stand a little bit higher, that I need a little, let's say, altitude. So I use the chair. The chair is a little bit too big for studio working, but it is what it is. It's a little bit, if you sit on it, it's a little bit too big, but I like to work with it because it gives me exactly what I need. So I don't have anything in mind. So I'm thinking that I will just, first I'm gonna create a new layer. I usually don't play around with, saying, okay, this layer is going to be my layer of, the light fixing or other things, because I usually have my own workflow and I remember what I'm doing when I am doing these things. So I don't really need to, for my own sake, I don't need to really write. I don't use Lightroom so much. I always work in Photoshop. That includes work in light. because the picture is blurry, I'm not going to have to do a lot of editing. There is only one minor thing, and that's right over here, that it is dark, but I think I'm going to leave it. And it's dark for a reason. It's because I was holding a remote control in my hand, so I was operating two remote controls. The first one was obviously from my camera, and the second one was from Ulanzi fog machine. Recently purchased Ulanzi fog machine. I'm in love with it. The effects that it gives me is just amazing. And if you go on my Instagram page, let's see if maybe they will show. Okay, this one. I was just holding it and taking a picture, snapping a picture of myself with it. So I absolutely loved it. So yeah, that was my my Ulanzi effect from Ulanzi Global or Ulanzi Germany. I'm in touch with Ulanzi Germany. I'm absolutely in love with the fog machine. So if you want a small review on it, it's on my page. So let's get a move on to our picture. I mean, I could potentially do first, which is removing just a little bit of that. I don't know if it's going to actually make a difference. Let's just see what it's going to happen. If anything is going to happen, that it's going to be to my satisfaction. Not really. This is before, this is the after. So if we're gonna zoom a little bit out, so it's not really, but we could potentially just get a little bit from the side over here. And just a little bit over here. So this is what I would think, maybe a little bit just to kind of match if it's going to help. Wait. If it's going to help a little bit. Does it help or does it make it worse? It helps a little bit. Let's see what happens when we play a little bit with the light a little bit later. But this is pretty much it. So the fog was done with the Ulanzi. So I was doing some crazy things around. And then, you know, the fog came. I had no idea how it's going to come. I have about the 20 seconds set for my camera. When I press the remote shutter release, it's about 20 seconds that I have to get my pose, maybe not right, but get my pose. And to approximately click on the other remote where my fog machine is standing. It was actually standing on the floor, to kind of have enough time to release the fog. So this is what I did, and it just came suddenly. Sorry, there was a commercial. Okay, it just kind of the fog comes suddenly, and then I am just waiting and see the results later, if they are at all somewhat to my liking or not. And that particular one was very much to my liking. So it looks like a dress. So what I'm thinking, we need to, well, first I'm going to just save it. And we have to, is Photoshop, and we have to come up with an idea. It's like what's going to happen with it. So I'm thinking maybe to do it as a pink series. I would maybe desaturate. I desaturate everything on my photos, and I also take the temperature down. So let's say for now we're finished with our editing, and maybe let's just see what happens here. If this one is going to kind of create anything for us. If not, then we're just gonna delete it. I do sometimes work with masks if I need to, but for the most part, if I don't need a mask, I just don't work with it. I think we're a little bit lagging here. Let's see if I send a heart. Something is going to happen. Okay. So I should maybe close my website. Okay. Nothing really happened here, so I'm just going to undo. Okay. We're going to fix. We're jumping up and down in here. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Okay. This is actually not so important for us. Okay. And maybe I'll keep this one. The bottom is not so important, but that's okay. Alright, we're back. Minor problems, minor details. Alright, so what I usually like to do is I like to go into filter and then camera raw, and then once again to play a little bit around with the photograph. So I usually keep notes and I write them by hand. I don't do it on the computer anymore. I literally write them old school by hand. And what I do is I go back to my notes and, for example, check if the same settings for one picture will match another photograph. And because we did this one red on red, it's going to be almost the same, I'm guessing, as my pink series. So let me just grab my notes. So my great big book of everything. I'm so sorry about that. Okay. So I like to play with the saturation and so on and so forth. So I'm going to try to do that. I am today being very computer retarded. Everything is falling, but it is what it is. Sometimes it is like that, yeah? Good. Maybe I'll just put my phone away. Okay, so I like to start with an exposure. And just maybe tilt the camera slightly up, down. I usually like to start with an exposure, and sometimes we take the exposure up. I basically go, like you can see over here, right by the list. So I'm starting from the top to the bottom, and I try to figure out, do I like the exposure? Do I want to go a little bit more on the exposure, or do I want to decrease the exposure, and so on and so forth. So all of my previous photos were usually up with exposure. I added exposure to it because I was shooting at very low ISO and higher f-stop, usually for a little bit blur, but this one was actually at ISO 900. I shoot at 28mm, this particular one, because I really want to have a little bit more background around in case I need to add or subtract the background. And I wanted to have the entire silhouette as well at f1.8, and so the f was matched with by me, and the ISO I wanted to bump it up a little bit because I wanted to have a little bit more grain and a little bit more blur as well. And then I shot at 1/100 of a second. So let's see if we can actually go for exposure a little bit higher. In my notes I have 0.70. I think 0.70 will be a little bit too much. But this is actually exactly from my last photo. So now I'm going to go to, I actually don't know if I like it yet, so let's just figure out how it contrasts with other settings. So we have contrast at 35. That gives a little bit more definition. And if I wouldn't want to desaturate, I would have to probably go a little bit more less on exposure, decrease the exposure, because I have because this is rather dark. Okay, highlights we have at 50, so let's see what happens. Then we have shadows, and that's at minus 100. Then I have in my notes whites at 20 plus, and blacks I have at minus 50. Oh, this is pretty cool and nice and contrasty, don't you think? I think it looks quite alright. If I would want to go 0, I don't know. Let's just go and do that 70. We can always decrease it. Okay. Then we're gonna go on the color, and I like to take the temperature down. I think the temperature, when you bring it down a little bit, is always better, because it gives like a little bit more cool vibe to the photograph. And I think I have it minus 10. I already like it at minus 7, but let's just, for the sake of it, let's match the other settings of the other photograph. Vibrance, okay, I have nothing on tint, because we really don't need to change the color. So if I would go, for example, on tint to the left hand side, it would be greenish, and then it would be purple, but we don't want that. At least I don't want it, because it's just ridiculous in my opinion. Okay, so we have vibrance at minus 50, and this is where we are starting to see a little bit more desaturation. And then desaturation we have at minus 20. So that was the initial, those are the initial settings. Now, do we have anything in the effects? Texture, yeah, we have texture at 10 plus. Then I have at clarity at 10. Don't know why, because it's blurry anyhow. But for whatever reason, I tried to get the dehaze in the other photograph, so we're gonna just follow the same pattern that we had before. And then dehaze we have at minus 30. Okay, that's maybe too much. Here I don't think we actually need dehaze, so we're going to just drop it down to 0. We don't need to work in curve, because everything else I've already done over there. So if we're gonna have the highlights and so on, so this is pretty much already what we have done in the curve, so you can either go a little bit up and down on the shadows. This is quite actually interesting how we have it here on highlights, and then light. Oh, this is not so. Let's see, darks. Maybe something like this. This is not so bad. And then shadows. This is very demonic. Let's just go 0. And let's just go 0 here too. We can always figure this one out later. So we're gonna just... Okay, I think we're back. And then we're gonna go color mixer. So we have on the reds, we have hue, saturation, and luminance. Now, and then of course all But saturation, so if we would want to saturate back the reds, and it's only going to affect your reds, it's not going to affect anything else. But of course, if it's going to be something popping out from the other side, sorry, something popping out on like edges and so it's going to, you know, affect them in this area. But basically the red's only supposed to affect the reds, and then yellows only the yellows, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So for example, we would want to go on oranges all the way. We will see a little bit change here, for example, on the skin. Let me see if we can actually see that. If you can see that, because I can see it fine. So that's over here. Yellows will pop up a little bit yellow, and that's also, you can see it over here. We actually don't need that. I do like how the effect is created, and this is, I have discovered that quite accidentally when I was doing the photograph, editing the photograph that I actually showed you. How the edges here are not somehow not affected as much when we desaturate the red, and how they're becoming pink. So I like that very much. Now in my notes I have red at -50, just a little bit. I have orange at -100, which I don't know why, because it starts affecting my hair. Yellow I have at at minus. Yellow I have at +100, which is only slightly really affects over here. And then I have magenta, for whatever reason, at the end. I have at -100. Oh, okay, that's why. So that affects actually the outline, magenta, and it creates this to be very grey. And that's actually quite interesting. And if we would go purple, and then if we would go magenta. And so, okay, so now that I have my my base form, I'm gonna try to figure out how to play around with it, so I can create my own version of it. So you can see that the red background became gray background, and it's fine because I actually kind of like it. We can also try luminance, for example, but that's we don't really need to illuminate so much. What I would like to do, maybe just a little bit later, and then hue, it just changes a little bit in reds and oranges and so on. But what I think we should do in here, actually, now that we can see the entire picture, I think what's wrong with it is that it's too much, in my opinion, there's too much exposure, so I would like to go down a little bit on the exposure. There's definitely too much exposure. Maybe 30, and maybe too much contrast. Let's see what happens if I pop the contrast a little bit. Actually, the contrast looks quite alright if we pop it up just a little bit. Maybe there's just too much whites. Maybe we should get the blacks a little bit to -100. Shadows give really minimalistic, but it does create a little bit of luminance. But if we're going to be able to see the picture, because every computer shows a little bit different color, so the white is a little bit off-white. So I think I would like it a little bit, maybe. Oh, we could just go a little bit less on the highlights. Now we can go a little bit on the contrast. Now maybe we can go slightly on exposure. Maybe not that much. and now we can go a little bit on the exposure. Maybe just a little bit on the contrast. Of 70, what will happen if we go? So that's not really bright. Let's keep it even. Let's keep it at 80. At least that's what I think, right? Okay. I'm not dissatisfied with this, with the outcome. So I think on the light and exposure we're good. I kind of like how it just creates this kind of dress that is just like flowy, and the outline is just like pinkish. I think I like it very much at this point. Now the hand over here looks a little bit like a shadow, so it looks very natural. So that's also okay. Color, what would happen if we would go a little bit down on temperature? It would create a little bit more... it would kind of sort of like come back for us into that pinkish thing. But do we really want to do that? Or do we want to keep it at kind of black and white with this outline? Not really. Nothing is happening here. What did we have the vibrance at? 50. 50 negative. Alright, and then saturation. We had saturation at minus 20. Right here we have minus 30. And this is minus, let's say 20. So we could maybe do minus 40. Okay. Texture clarity, we already know. We don't need the curve, but we do need... Okay. We had the saturation on reds to minus 100. I'm thinking maybe we should just do like a 70. We absolutely want to eliminate all the oranges. We don't need them, because it's just going to create a problem, and I'm just trying to catch any yellow that might be there. There is a slight yellow, so I'm just going to bring it all the way down. Okay, now if we would want to go hue, this would become a little bit more magenta, and this would become a little bit more orange, which is not exactly flattering, but it's something definitely different than I have done already. It's definitely different. But do I like it? Is it flattering? It's not exactly flattering. But do we want to go red and like pinky pinky? I'm not sure. We had red at 15. This is hue. Okay, so hue at 0. Okay. And then what do we want to do? This magenta changes a little bit of the color. And then purple. Purple into blue. That's also very interesting. These days people are very much trying to do so many crazy things with photographs. It's very much playing around with the hue, And illumination, it's very much now. Like for example in blues, it's like an aqua blue. It's so much very much now. There is a girl, a woman, her name is Elizaveta Porodnina, and she's a photographer, and she is the master of this illumination. So if you actually want to check her out, Google her. I don't know, and then is this somewhat affected? No. Luminance. And this is just like question, how far do we want to actually go on this one? I'm actually not sure. This one has to be a little bit thinner. I actually do like it to go as natural as possible, if possible, without having all these kind of illuminations. And if we're gonna do this, it's just gonna change everything for us. Okay. And then hue, we only really have the blues at hue. Now there's one minor thing that I wanted to do, which is this one is white. Okay. And then maybe a little bit less on the contrast. If we do the, so maybe we should go down on. The exposure. I absolutely love playing with these things. It just gives so much more in shadows. We want to go a little bit higher in the shadows. Then highlights and then the contrast. We really want to have that contrast at 100. I'm actually not sure if we want to have that contrast at 100. Maybe. But then somehow it works at 100, yeah? It's kind of like a swan lake-ish. I think I like it. I mean, we can of course create a couple of things. I have people that say, hey, why don't you just keep it like very, very nasty red? And we could. Now I'm gonna have to write down the statistics. And where is my pen? Let me just grab my pen. So this is going to be quite a lot. And so I like to write everything down, otherwise I'm not going to even remember what I... So this one is DC 100, DC 100. Let's say swan. Looks like a swan. I have no background in dancing. I mean, if when I'm drunk you can find me on the dance floor and you will be very disappointed how I cannot dance. But so what I do like to do when I'm finally satisfied with the results, I just simply write it down. So exposure at plus 0.70 and then contrast. I write basically first three letters because I'm going to remember anyways. Okay. Contrast plus 80. It's important to write plus and minus so later you won't get confused. Highlights minus 100. Shadows plus 100. Whites. Blacks. That's minus 100. Okay. Then I go to color. Then I write temperature minus 10. If I, for example, do not have anything in tint, I just let it go. I don't write, like, for example, tint 0 because I don't really need it. So I write vibrance, and that's -50, and saturation at -40. I don't think we have anything at DFI. Yeah, we do texture effects. Texture we have at +10, and clarity at +10. No curve. Okay. Then we have. Okay. So on the side, because now we're going to go to color, and it's like in one row: hue, saturation, and luminance. So I would write, for example, blues in hue, and that would be -8. And then of course in saturation I write normally, because when I come into Photoshop, my settings are already showing me the line under saturation, everything under saturation, so I don't really need to. Or I will just write in saturation in color, and then reds, and that's -70. Orange -100, yellow -100, and then purple and magenta. Purple is -59, and then -30. I'm just going to make it -60. -60. Because I kind of like to have these. Okay, color grading, nothing. Details, luminance. Okay, and then luminance. That I actually write as well. So reds -100, orange -100, purple, magenta also -100, and I think that's about it. Okay, so we have that. We're gonna click OK, and this is basically our Bible. This is our Bible. So we got our Bible. Now we can check before and after. We started with something like this, and now we have something like this. I'm actually happy with the results. I am super happy with the results, and I'm going to actually do it in real time. Post it on maybe as boomerang on Instagram. So let's go. Okay. Okay, it's going. So if you go on my Instagram, you can see this. Hopefully you go on my Instagram. Okay, let's place it there. I think I'm very satisfied with the results. Of course, it's a little bit blurry. Of course, it's going to be blurry, but I'm super satisfied with it. Okay, so let's go back to our music. I can actually change. That's commercial. Okay. Just maybe slightly change it. Let me just take this one in here. Okay. So what I would like to do right now is probably to clip it, cut it, and so on. So clip it, cut it, and so on. Okay. First, of course, we need to save it to save us a lot of time later if something crashes, and trust me, it does crash. My computer needs some upgrade. It's a little older. Yeah, so a couple of things that I would like to probably fix in here. So it's the top background. Maybe just to fill a little bit. Always content aware, yeah? So it knows to match the background. Let's see what happens. Okay. Yeah, did a great job. I can of course always crop it on the top. Do I need anything here? We can try to see if it can handle and fill for content aware. If not, we're just gonna crop it. But I'm just curious at this point because we do have a fog, and now with the AI, the new features, can it actually? Ooh, not bad, not bad, not too shabby. Not too shabby. Wait. And then we can also do. The reason that I go here, because then for me, for my small fingers, Shift and F5, then I have to use 2 hands instead of just 1 hand. So it's just easier. And then we're gonna do. Okay. And the small things, of course, we can always clip on the side. Of each side. I did something fill. And if that's not going to help, then we can of course use a clone stamp tool with a very, very soft round brush. And then just match them. Where are you all? So we've done this. Now we're gonna do this. It's actually done a pretty good job, right on the bottom and everywhere. In terms of the filling, of course we can as well do a little bit. Fixing on the top. And of course fix just a little bit in here. Right? And let's see how it goes. Where's my hand? I like it. Do you like it? I like it. I actually quite like it. I'm very satisfied with the final result. I think it's cool. I think it's cool. It's dark and it's creepy, and this is what we started with. Yeah, it's been exciting 43 minutes, 44 minutes. And it was for me. If it was boring for you, I am very, very sorry. I'm going to try to make it a little bit more exciting next time. But for now, I think it was quite alright. I mean, I'm super excited with the results. I am so excited. And I am, I don't want it to be typical black and white. I don't want it to be, but I think I am satisfied with it. It's flowy, it's glowy. It's not your typical black and white. It's a little bit purplish-ish, and I think it's a little bit different. Yeah, so my body's recovering today from my dance moves. I do not need to thank any sponsors because no, I don't do this with a sponsor. But you have heard me mention Ulanzi Germany being mentioned, or Ulanzi Global. Again, it's my personal experience. They are not sponsoring me whatsoever, so I just really, really like I just love the the little fog machine, and yeah, I'm super happy with it. I bought 6 liters of some kind of extra heavy fluid and semi-heavy fluid, but for now I'm still using the original Ulanzi one. So I'm hoping, well, I'm hoping to test the other ones as well, but if they're not going to be any good, I'm going to use the original one. But I am very satisfied with the results, so I guess enjoy watching it later, and see you next time, and feel free to come on to my Instagram, which is right over here, which is right over this one. And I'm going to post my my things right in here, my photographs. So, and over here you can also see Ulanzi. Right over here I had a little bit of fog. Not this one. Right over here I had a little bit of fog. And I'm going to show you another one as well. Let me just see. This one. So you can see the fog being over here. It's completely different photograph and completely different setup and completely different. And it's a Filmog Ace from Ulanzi, Germany. Completely different setup, completely everything was completely different. So what we have created now is amazing. So I like that. I might actually recreate other photographs to match the other one, to match this one. So now I'm gonna create a series of 3 new ones. Yeah, yeah. But thank you so much for being here. You have to go. I do too.